I think another one of her accomplishments.
I really don't know much of what she did.
I'm not sure I know enough about her accomplishments.
Well, the remaking of Kamala Harris goes well beyond just her suit and her fake Southern accent. They're now trying to remake her record, if she's got one. Now, yesterday we showed you man on the street interviews, people in New York. Hey, you're excited about Kamala Harris. What are her big accomplishments? And of course, nobody had anything that they could provide. But we got some pushback. It's like, well, those could be Trump supporters. Those could be people who don't like Kamala Harris, right? Okay, fair enough. The exact same question was asked at the rally, specifically of people who showed up to support Kamala Harris. These are bona fide, vetted, 100% Kamala Harris supporters. So the question is again, can you tell us her accomplishments?
I don't know. She was vice president of the United States, and she was attorney general in California, and she was the senator from California. I really don't know much of what she did.
I'm not sure I know enough about her accomplishments to answer that question.
Well, the first is that she is the vice president. The second, that she was in the Senate. And then also that she was the attorney general for the state of California.
I just want to pause there because you hear this a lot whenever you challenge somebody. It's like, what has Kamala Harris done? And then suddenly they'll read the resume, right? The titles she has held. In other words, if you really want to point to being the Attorney General of California or the DA of San Francisco or the U.S. Senator from California or the Vice President of the United States as accomplishments, being those things is not the accomplishment. The accomplishment is that she won an election. That's it. But just winning the election and thus attaining that title is not actually an achievement beyond just that, winning the election. But this is what you get a lot. The one thing are you kidding? Look at her resume. A resume does not a career make. All right.
Is being elected to Congress. That's number one. I think breaking some glass barriers as being the district attorney. And I just think the way that she carries herself.
She was attorney general in her state. She moved up to becoming, the vice president of the United States. So she has definitely she's definitely made her stamp in history of being the first African American female president, vice president, and soon to be first vice president as a woman of color. I think another one of her accomplishments.
Yeah, they didn't have much, but that's the problem with Kamala Harris, or it's the beauty of Kamala Harris. See, she's a tabula rasa. Since she is a clean slate, they can basically fill in whatever they want, and if they say it loud enough and sound smart enough, the media will just take it. And they'll say, yeah, that's right. That's who she is. That's what she stands for. That's exactly reality. Well, we'll get into in a moment exactly the fake accomplishments they're trying to assign to her and the lies that they're telling about her. But quickly, Kevin O'Leary, our pal from Shark Tank, Mr. Wonderful, he was on with Jesse Waters last night on Fox News Channel. They did an analysis, first of all, about the fact that Kamala Harris, if you live in Washington, D.C., there's one thing everybody knows, and that is her staff hates her. She has had the highest turnover of people in her comms department, the chief of staff, the legislative people, the people who work with her. They have been leaving in droves over the last 3.5 years. She's a hateful human being to work for. That's also a sign of maybe a flaw in one's management style. But then Kevin O'Leary brought it home with regard to her actual achievements as vice president.
And there is precedence for what's going on here. I ask everybody to look north to Canada. When a young Justin Trudeau swept in, nobody cared about his executional skills or what he'd ever done or anything. They just thought he was the it guy. Look at the country now. It's wiped out. And because it turns out the guy had no executional skills. It would be important to leave aside the politics and ask, what has Kamala Harris actually done? Actually achieved? Because if I was hiring her, and I'm not trying to be partisan, I would ask her, What was a goal? What did you achieve? Because any governor or any senator that would put into presidential viability would have a history, a track record of doing stuff.
What do you think she would say, Kevin, if you asked her in an interview straight up, Kamala, what's your biggest accomplishment? What would she say?
I don't know, because I don't know of one, but I can tell you this: in the next 2 weeks, the happy talk is going to have to stop, because someone's going to sit her down and say, let's talk inflation. Let's talk border. Let's talk policy on energy. Let's talk policy on foreign affairs. And if she doesn't deliver on that with the new vision towards the center, the guy that said, I wish we'd run a process, is going to be right. And there.
Yeah. And I really quickly want to put that was great. Absolutely 100% true. And yes, all the happy talk needs to end pretty quickly. I just want to point out, and this is why we love our commenters at Rumble and at YouTube and our live stream. Dartmart, that's brilliant. I called her a tabla rasa because she's a blank slate, but more like a tabla rasa because she makes everything about race. Well done, you. I wanted to interrupt and just draw a highlight to someone who deserves a bit of a high five. Nice job, Dartmart. That said, because she is a blank slate, they are able to either assign to her whatever they want for the purposes of pulling her strings and getting her to victory, or even better, whitewashing and modifying reality to basically create their own history, their own reality as to what happened and what didn't happen during the last 3.5 years of her vice presidency. Let me give you Exhibit A. We're seeing this happen before our very eyes. Remember how last week, the big push, the lie, the talking point that was repeated everywhere by the media, because they're not a media, they're propagandists, was, oh, well, she was never really the border czar. She wasn't the border czar. There's no way she was never the border czar, right? Now, we pointed out to you two obvious facts about that. Well, three obvious facts. The first is it's a lie. We know she was the border czar, number one. Number two, by doing that, they are obviously acknowledging the fact that the border is a complete and total disaster and a huge vulnerability. Because let me tell you something. If the lies they tell about the border, that it's secured, everything's wonderful, and it's never been better, if that were true, then they'd be building a monument to her as our greatest border czar ever, right? The reason they said she's not the border czar is because they're terrified that she's going to get tagged with the border, right? The third reality that this proves is that the media is willing to do anything these people tell them to do, even if it defies actual reality and their own reporting from the last 3.5 years, because they are so in the tank, not necessarily to help Kamala Harris win, but to help defeat Donald Trump. And so given that, that was last week, right? Well, this week they've decided that no one's buying it. Everyone knows she was the border czar. Everybody knows that she's responsible for the disaster at the border. So now their strategy is going to be to lie about the border, to say that actually they did a much better job on the border than Donald Trump ever did. Watch this from the rally last night.
So in this campaign, I will proudly put my record against his any day of the week. Any day of the week. Including, for example, on the issue of immigration.
Yeah, so including immigration. This is the new pivot now. I didn't have anything to do with the border. I had nothing to do with immigration. Now let's talk about how I'm so much better than Trump on immigration. But think about it. She says that she's willing to, well, how did she put it again?
So in this campaign, I will proudly put my record against his any day.
Boy, that's so rehearsed. Any day of the week. Remember how many videos we've shown you of people who are just drawing a blank when you ask them what her record is and what her achievements are. And now she wants to hold up her record of achievements against Donald Trump's any day of the week. And so the immigration lies begin. Here's Chris Murphy, senator from Connecticut, telegraphing the punch last night.
Kamala Harris was not named border czar, but she was given a very important but discreet task. She was asked to try to work with our Central American countries to reduce those reasons that you properly explained that people leave those countries because of violence or political instability or economic destitution to come to the United States. She did exactly that. In fact, she organized over 50 American companies to invest $5 billion in 3 key Central American countries. And guess what happened over the first 2 years of the Biden administration? Migration from those countries was cut by 50 to 60%. So Kamala Harris should run on her record of successfully reducing flows to the United States from those 3 countries.
There, see, last week she had nothing to do with the border. She had nothing to do with immigration. Stop lying about her. This week she should run on her record of being so successful on illegal immigration. It's really clever the way they do it, isn't it? And incredibly transparent. In fact, it's the only thing transparent about this administration. So here she is at the rally, echoing it directly.
Donald Trump, on the other hand, has been talking a big game about securing our border, but he does not walk the walk. Or as my friend Quavo would say, he does not walk it like he talks it.
She's so real. She's so genuine. She's so street. She's so hip hop. Says absolutely nobody. I really wonder how long they're going to try to carry this one off, because I think they're trying this, but I don't think it's going to last. But I'm glad they're trying it, because it does show her to be the buffoon that she is.
So look, our administration worked on the most significant border security bill in decades. Some of the most conservative Republicans in Washington, D.C. supported the bill.
Actually, that's not true at all. First of all, they think every Republican other than Mitt Romney is. Actually, they think Mitt Romney is really, really conservative, too. I don't want to relitigate the border bill. It was a disaster. It was a nightmare, and it wasn't going to get any votes from the Republicans. They should have never negotiated with Democrats. The Democrats never actually came there with good faith. But what you're about to hear is lie after lie after lie, because Kamala Harris is going to say that Donald Trump blocked the bill. Now, you know that's not true. You know how I know you know that's not true? Because you're smart enough to know that Donald Trump holds no elective office. He can't block anything. He's a private citizen. Now, it may be true that other Republicans blocked the bill, and it may be true that they blocked the bill because in consultation with Donald Trump, the leader of the party, it was determined that this bill would actually make things worse. But watch the lies come out. The uninformed voter, Rush Limbaugh used to call them low information voters, will actually think that when Donald Trump was president, he blocked all of the things she's claiming this bill did. Watch how she lies.
Even the Border Patrol endorsed it. It was all set to pass. But at the last minute, Trump directed his allies in the Senate to vote it down. Right. He tanked the bipartisan deal because he thought it would help him win an election. Which goes to show Donald Trump does not care about border security. He only cares about himself.
All right. Now, we'll let the minstrel show go aside for a minute here, because I know how odious she is to you, and I'm not in the business of repelling viewers. But I just want you to know that if this is their strategy and they want to have a head-to-head competition between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump on border security and immigration, bring it on. Because I actually do have faith in the American voter, and I think they know the difference. But they're going to try lying. Watch this lie. Here's her latest ad.
On the border, the choice is simple. Kamala Harris supports increasing the number of Border Patrol agents. Donald Trump blocked a bill to increase the number of Border Patrol agents. Kamala Harris supports investing in new technology to block fentanyl from entering the country. Donald Trump blocked funding for technology to block fentanyl from entering the country. Kamala Harris supports spending more money to stop human traffickers. Donald Trump blocked money to stop human traffickers. Kamala Harris prosecuted transnational gang members and got them sentenced to prison. Trump is trying to avoid being sentenced to prison. There's two choices in this election: the one who will fix our broken immigration system and the one who's trying to stop her.
Now, understand, of course, that fixing the broken immigration system means amnesty for the 10 million people who have gotten here on her watch illegally. And, of course, that won't fix anything. But you see what they're trying to do here. And I hope the Trump team is ready, because they do have the facts on their side. The question is, are they ready to fight this? There's one other brilliant example of the lies that I'm talking about. Look at what the Kamala Harris X feed put out today. This is what Kamala Harris's people put out.
Number one, that, but it also made it much better for the opposing side.
Regularize, manage the crisis.
You couldn't manage.
They put this video out and they described it thus. Trump says he sabotaged bipartisan deal to secure the border because it made it much better for the opposing side. This is an 8-second clip. Watch it again.
Number one, that, but it also made it much better for the opposing side.
Regularize, manage the crisis.
You couldn't manage.
All right. Now, you're probably thinking, wow, I can't believe he said that. Well, he didn't. These are the lies. And again, where are all the fact checkers on stuff like this? These are the depths they're willing to stoop to lie and cheat and finagle. I mean, they pushed Biden out of the way at the last second and then placed it with Kamala Harris without nary a vote. That's how desperate they are to stay onto power. And so, of course, they're going to lie about Trump. There was the 8-second clip. Do you want to see the full clip? What he really said? Here's what he really said in full.
Why were you against the House, against the Senate border deal, the bipartisan border?
Well, they allow 5,000 people a week, but a lot of people took it as 5,000 people a day. They said 5,000 people a week, and you read it, and it says 5,000 people a day. Number one, that, but it also made it much better for the opposing side.
Regularize, manage the crisis.
You couldn't manage it. It was so complex.
Now, somehow the Harris for President team cut out that part of his response, that it allowed 5,000 people in a week. Some people looked at it and said 5,000 a day. So, of course, it was a terrible bill. Of course it was. Listen, they want to fight about the border. Bring on the fight of the border. I just hope the Trump people are ready for the lies that are going to be spewed about him and about immigration. But I have a feeling that the American people are ready to do something about the border. And if you look at what's been going on for the last 3.5 years, renewing that program is not really the solution. You know, the last time Donald Trump ran for president, he made the border one of the central issues, and that worked out pretty okay for him. So bring it on. Absolutely bring it on. One other item on this. Forgive me, I forgot this. Why do you think Kamala Harris suddenly shifted like this? Where last week she was saying, don't look at me. I had nothing to do with the border. I had nothing to do with immigration. Why is that? I'll show you why. MSNBC sort of stumbled upon the truth here accidentally. It's what Rush Limbaugh used to call it, a accidental act of journalism. You see, there's a lot of crime at the hands of the illegal immigrants who have come into this country. We know that. And the crime that illegal immigrants commit, generally speaking, the victims are other immigrants. In this case, majority of them of a Hispanic origin. Citizens who live in Hispanic dominant communities who are now victims of the crime coming in from El Salvador and Venezuela and other countries. So what's that doing to those Hispanic Americans who can vote this November? Take a look at this report from Steve Karnecki.
Take a look. Here's Allentown, Lehigh County. This has the highest concentration of Hispanics in Pennsylvania. It's 54% Hispanic. And look at this. The trend has been toward Republicans. The state was moving toward the Democrats between 16 and 20. But in Allentown, Clinton won it by 42 and 16. fell down to 35 in 2020. This is an area we've talked so much about, the polls showing Trump making more inroads with Latino voters. This is the kind of place where the Trump folks think this trend can continue. Can they knock it down into the 20s this time? Could they do even better than that? Again, you'll see it here. City of Hazleton. Look at the transformation of Hazleton in 2000. She was 5% Hispanic, now more than 60% Hispanic. And again, look at this trend. It was blue in 2012, Hazleton was, for Obama. And then Trump comes along, he carries it by 5, he improves it to 11. Again, this is the kind of place that Trump folks think they can do better. And again, this is very much a majority Hispanic city. Or Reading, again, this is where George was, in Berks County. And you just take a look right here. It's overwhelmingly Democratic, but look, from 2012, when Barack Obama won re-election, to 2020, when Biden carried Pennsylvania, that's a drop of basically 20 points in the Democratic margin here in a heavily Hispanic city. So the trend in the most Hispanic cities in Pennsylvania, as the state was getting more Democratic in 2020, they were becoming more Republican. So when you think of that very narrow margin there, overall statewide, Biden winning by 80,000, Trump winning by 44,000, these are the kinds of cities where the Trump campaign thinks continue this improvement. There could be tens of thousands of votes that switch just because of that. So
that's right. Democrats, Kamala Harris, they are hemorrhaging Hispanic votes right now. And it's because a direct result of their failed border policies. Everybody thinks that, if you have an open border, then Latino voters will be happy. No, actually, quite the opposite. Hispanic voters don't like the fact that they play by the rules. They're citizens. They did it the right way. And now you've got people crossing the border illegally, living in their neighborhoods, and committing crime. The trends are moving for Trump right now. And that's why you see the Democrats and Kamala Harris lying and pretending like they actually care and did something about the border. But they're lies. The Trump people know it. You know it. And it's time to fight back.